Yo, GD here, Charles, and as you can see by the video title here today, we are going to be talking about F1 2017, and I was very kindly invited out by Codemasters based in Birmingham to test the early stages of the game, so the alpha stages of the game, as we did last year as well. And it's firstly, I just want to say thank you so much to them, for Codemasters, to Lee Mayfair, Paul Gill, Jenny, for the opportunity once again to go out and actually test the game. And everyone who went, I'll be able to name those now. So it's myself, Arava, Axe Afro, Axe Gillen, Tim McMarda, Noble2909, Harry Jacks, Matthew Gallagher, XMAG, Vincent, Sutil F1, and Into the Barrier, along with Carl and Tom. The people who went this year gave absolutely amazing feedback, and I really do hope that they can use that to hopefully improve the game even more. Because last year the game was good. I feel it was a good game. It started off the handling for me, which is mainly just the main thing I do, really, just for playing in leagues and playing mainly online and multiplayer. I was a huge fan of it when it came out and launched, but as many people know, and I've been openly critical of Codemasters, and I will continue to be. It doesn't really matter to me. I'm just completely honest with what I say. It was a little bit of a disappointment after the patch because I felt the handling did completely change, and it really just lost its realistic feel, just the weighted feel to it, which I really did enjoy in the beta and upon launch of the game as well. So coming into this, I was having a completely open mind, just saying my thoughts on the game last year, what I recommend for future games, F1 2018, and just how I feel about the game currently as well. So what we'll be able to talk about today is not really too many features, unfortunately, and we can't do that at the time, but as soon as we're able to talk about the features, new features of the game, things that I really like, then I will definitely be making a video on that straight away. But today we're able to talk about the handling, which is really good for me because that's one of my main areas of interest, along with the multiplayer. Those two things are really the two big things that I really do YouTube for, and I've written down quite a few notes for this, so hopefully I'll try not to make this video too long, keep it relatively short. Again, if you want to ask me anything below, in terms of features, I can't really talk about it at the moment, but really in regards to handling, and if you've got any other questions, I'll hopefully be able to say if I can answer it or not. Then just post anything you want to down below. But with the handling, the biggest thing that I really did like with the handling on 2016 was the braking. The braking last year felt a little bit unrealistic at times. Just felt a little quite unnatural how you could really just spam down the gears and everything. But on this game, I feel the braking has really improved, where it will actually punish you if you abuse it, really. If you abuse it and you actually lock up. Because on 2016, if you actually locked up, it didn't really do too much, even with your tyre wear or just your performance or making the corner. You could actually lock up and still make the corner. On this game, if you lock up, then you'll go straight on. Pretty much back to how it was on 2013 in a way, which is something I've really been missing myself the past few games. I think the past 3 games now, 16, 15 and 14. Braking has not really been an issue with no assists. So it's really nice to see that they've really made that more difficult for yourself. And yeah, so basically if you lock up, you'll go straight on, and it actually punishes your tyre wear a lot more than last year as well. Something I didn't really notice too much in F1 2016. This year, if you actually lock up, it really is actually going to punish you in terms of tyre wear, tyre temperature. So trail braking, if you don't know what that is, hopefully someone can explain below or just ask me below. But trail braking is required much more. So back to the line of really 2013, 2012, the way you have to brake is something I'm really looking forward to. But the braking distance is much shorter, but that's obviously to be expected with the new aero regulations. That's something that is realistic. So the braking distance is actually shorter, but it's a lot more fine line or what you can and can't do under braking. So you do have to be quite skilled under braking this game, which is something I really like. In terms of the traction, I actually felt it was easier than F1 2016, but to be honest, at the start of F1 2016, I was a massive fan of it, of how difficult it was, despite Some people are saying it was too difficult upon launch, but I was really a massive fan of it, even though it may not have been the most realistic thing. But this year, the traction is easier, but it just feels a lot more natural and realistic and just smoother in terms of how you actually play. You know when the car's actually going to step out compared to when I played F1 2016, because sometimes you just didn't really know when the car was going to snap. And that led to the short shifting, which a lot of people do, which does help in real life. But I feel if you're going from second to sixth gear in the space of half a second, then I feel that should really bog your car down, because people do that to help with the traction. And on this year, you can still short shift, but I noticed it definitely does bog you down at some points. So I don't think it'll be as excessive or as I'm trying to think on the word. As effective, pretty much as it was in F1 2016. So it just feels a lot more natural, a lot more realistic, just a lot more smoother, and you just really know exactly how much input you have to put in each time, something I noticed. So I feel that's definitely an improvement there. In terms of the cornering, the grip has been massively increased. The lap times are quite a lot faster, which obviously is in line with the new regulations. So both mechanical, low speed and high speed, making it extremely nice to drive, and just the whole game just feels just a lot more smoother in the handling. For myself, being on the controller, it felt like it was kind of a bit of a stop-start kind of game on 2016, where it's a bit rigid and you couldn't really be that precise of just your inputs in the game. But this, just to turn in the traction and the braking, just feels a lot more fluid, just a lot more smoother. And an example of how much more grip there is, I think old Turn 1 at Silverstone, which is Cops, I believe, that's a comfortable flat out with default setup. Well, not that comfortable, but it is a pretty comfortable. So again, it's falling into more of the 2013 kind of grip, because in 2016 you had to do a downshift. On this game, you won't be needing to do a downshift in there. So both the low speed and high speed, the grip has definitely been increased quite a bit, and I think that'll be really good for racing online and offline in career mode as well. In terms of a slipstream, this was probably my biggest complaint I had of F1 2016. This has definitely been reduced. It's quite hard to tell when you're racing against the AI, but compared to last year 2016, and speaking of the guys there, this has actually been reduced. And the reason why it was so high last year is because the AI need it for career mode, basically to just enable better racing. So the AI actually need it. This year, they knew it was quite a big problem, quite a big complaint in the last game, and this definitely noticeably has been tampered down. Of course, this may differ from when the game is actually released, but from what I can tell, this has definitely been lowered quite a bit. So it actually makes it a lot harder to actually race against the AI as well, which is something I'm a big fan of. And hopefully for online league racing as well, this will carry over into that. Tyre wear and turbulent air. Turbulent air is something I raised last year and something I've talked about quite a lot this year as well. Something I'd really like to see. Turbulent air has not really actually been implemented. That's mainly because of just how the game works. It's just very hard to implement. But what I did notice, and what has been confirmed as well, is that the tyre wear and the tyre temperature when you're behind a car, it's going to affect you a lot more, because in 2016 it just didn't really affect you like at all really. The tyre wear just didn't, for me anyway, it didn't really affect me, my tyre wear or the real temperature of the car or anything. This year that's been a really big focus point. So this year your tyre wear is definitely going to increase by maybe 2 or 3% or more when you're behind another car. So 2016 you could basically sit behind cars in career mode or in league racing with the slipstream effect as well. Since now this has actually been taken away or been significantly reduced, you can't really afford to sit behind cars anymore, because you're actually going to lose a lot of performance in your tyres, and the ability to, you need to actually get past someone. It's quite important to have track position this year. So that's a big thing that I'm really happy with. With the pad and wheel balance, using a wheel quite a bit myself and having a chance to play on the wheel quite a bit there. Obviously I'm not as quick as I am with the controller, but I can get within about half a second around most tracks, and that's what I did there when I tested the game. It feels really good on both. And the thing I noticed this year, it just, as I said before, this game just feels a lot smoother. You can just be a lot more precise with both inputs, and you just feel a lot more connected to the road. That's something I particularly noticed you just got a much more greater sense of feeling of when the car's understeering, when it's oversteering. Just the weight of the car, which I had at the start of F1 2016 and in the beta as well, which I absolutely loved. That is something that I felt again in this, and an explanation of reason why the handling did kind of change last year was not because they actually changed the handling, it was because they changed some things in the track settings, which then created a knock-on effect on the handling. So it didn't specifically actually change anything, from what I've been told. But hopefully this year that the handling, if the handling stays how it is now, I'll be absolutely fine with that. And at first it feels very similar to F1 2016, but the more you play it, and the more you reach the exploits of the game, or just the potential of what you can do in lap time, you really do notice of how small these little changes are, make a huge difference overall. And I just feel it's just a much nicer game to play for me. So I really look forward to hopefully this keeping the same, or a few tweaks here and there. But yeah, overall it just feels a lot more connected to the road and just a much smoother experience. In terms of the setups, which I did experiment with quite a bit, obviously, because that's mainly what my channel was based on. They're a lot different from F1 2016. They do not work. If you use the same setup from F1 2016, it doesn't work at all. If you use the same suspension settings that I use, it just doesn't work. The same wings don't work. I personally found that maybe a little bit slightly lower wings are beneficial, but overall it's quite hard to tell of what a real good setup is at the moment, because I think you're going to have to test each individual component out very thoroughly. There are some aspects of the setup with the suspension geometry. I found definitely some time in that, and the swings that make just a huge difference. If you just do the opposite of what you did last year and set up, so if you just put everything into 11:11, I went from doing like, I don't know, well, an X time at track to about 3 seconds off, just through changing just like one thing to the opposite on suspension. So that's how much of a difference it can actually make. So I really do hope that there's going to be a lot more variety in the setups this year. There was on 2016, to be fair, there was in terms of suspension, and that's something you did have to change pretty much almost every race, and the wings as well from now and again. But this year it seems to be a lot more effective. If you raise the wings up a little bit, you're going to lose a lot more time down the straight, whereas in 2016 it didn't really change that much. So setups in this game, they are completely different for what they are in 2016. So there'll just be a lot of experimentation, and yeah, hopefully there's going to be much more variety between the tracks. Also, with the contact model, having only raced the AI, the contact model is relatively similar, but they are very much aware of the pinball effect. So basically, if you just tap a car with your tyres, that car is just going to go spinning off into the barrier. I noticed when I got hit by the AI myself, I didn't really have that effect, to be honest, myself. So until we actually test on the multiplayer, we'll never really know for sure unless we actually race against other human players in the lobby. That's the best way to do it. But they definitely said that is something that has been quite a big priority, because it really does kill the immersion of actually being in a league race, or like on racing online, or even race against the AI as well. But it just definitely seems the car is just a lot more stable upon contact. I can't really talk about the damage model too much. As something we'll have to leave for another time, but I was very, very impressed with it. I think it's definitely a big step up. Without going into any detail, I was really, really impressed with that, and a lot of other things as well. In terms of assists versus no assists, it's definitely an area that they are focused on in 2016. I feel no assist is faster. I don't feel it's that much faster currently at the moment. There's still going to be some tweaks to be made. But last year, people could just run 100% brake pressure with ABS on with medium traction, and those people would be getting like top of the time trials most times. They definitely did know that from looking at the leaderboards last year, and they've done quite a bit of work to make sure that it's easier to use but not actually faster to use. And from experiencing that, pretty much around 90% of the tracks, no assists, I felt was definitely a comfortable 2 to 3 tenths or more faster. It just depends on the nature of the corners, but overall at the moment I think it's got quite a good balance. I still feel there needs to be a little bit more of a gap between them, But overall, I think it's definitely where it should be, or definitely on the right direction of where it should be at the moment. And also just mention again, I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but the short shifting, again, that's been another area of focus where people were exploiting that last year. They're trying to really make it so you can't just excessively do that, and I think that's definitely a good thing. Myself, I definitely need to short shift more because I actually over rev the car quite a bit myself, but they are fully aware of that, and I think we had that at the start of last year's game as well, where I thought the handling was pretty much almost perfect. Short shifting, if you actually did it, it would actually bog the car down, and it seems to be a similar feeling again. So basically, the handling is pretty much like how it was in the beta last year, but with a little bit less weight to the car, because that's how the cars are in terms of the weight and the fuel ratio now, and that's how the car should feel. But overall, it feels just a lot more smoother, connected experience, and obviously with the added grip, I feel it's just a lot more fun to drive. And hopefully you guys, if you get invited to actually play the beta, you'll get to experience that myself. So that is just basically a little roundup of the handling, and in terms of experience, it was just an amazing week to be a part of. And again, thank you so much for Codemasters for inviting me out along with everyone else, having the pleasure of meeting Into the Barrier for the first time, Sutil and Noble2909. I've met him before, but having a chance to really talk to him in person, those guys in person, along with Vax Afro as well, it's been a real big pleasure. And watching Noble2909 on the wheel, the guy's an absolute freak on the wheel as well. So it's insane how much skill he has, along with other guys as well. So it's been an absolutely great week. Again, thank you so much for the invite, for sending me out there. And if anyone's got any questions, as I said, please ask it in the comment section below. I'll do the best I can, as I did with last year. Just thought I'd just make this video for people who are just interested. I know there's some people who don't really want to hear anything about it, but if you are interested, I made this video if you just wanted to know more about it. So hopefully you did enjoy this. I gave as much detail as I could. In the meantime, ask me anything you want to down below. And again, thank you for the continued support, and I will catch you next time. Cheers.